When I built this studio, I thought I needed a bigger or better studio. In my previous studio, I was trying to mix my clean work and my messy work in the same room. What I needed was a space where I could screen print, where I could dye, where I could rust, and just do messy work. Now let me introduce you to my dye studio. This is not going to be a studio tour in the typical sense. To understand this space, we need to go back in time to my Kentucky studio. So now my Kentucky studio, everything was done in one room. I did have a little nook that had some shelves built in and I could use that for storage, but all the work itself was done in one room. I did have separate tables, one table for clean work and one table for dirty work. And that worked in the beginning, but eventually things started to commingle. I had dye or rust on something I didn't want it on. And if it was my work, that was something I could usually work around. But when my daughter would come over to sew, it became increasingly difficult to protect the space well enough so that we didn't get dye or paint or rust on her fabric. That's when the room stopped working. So despite the issues that I had with the Kentucky studio, that studio taught me a lot. It taught me that I needed a separate messy space and a separate clean space. So my garage here in North Carolina is my clean space, and then I needed to build a messy studio. The next question was, what should it be? I considered a lean-to type structure. The next idea was a shed, but after doing some research and pricing a number of sheds, they were quite pricey. So what I decided on was something a little bit unconventional, and that was a shipping container. Why a shipping container? Well, I'm going to blame my son-in-law for that. He got one for his motorcycles, and I thought, well, why not? And as compared to a shed, shipping containers were fairly inexpensive. Another thing that appealed to me about the shipping container is it's a rough space, and I could be rough in it. I didn't have to worry about babying the space. Now, I will admit, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole looking at how to insulate it and add windows and add electricity. Then I realized, no, Angie, this is where you want to do messy work. It's basically a large, overgrown tin can. And the first time I worked in here, I dropped my paintbrush and there's a paint splat on the floor. And I just stood there and I looked at it and I thought, you know what? It's a rough space, Angie. You can be rough in it. So I just took the paintbrush and spread it out and went on about my way. So the shipping container made me realize that I didn't need another studio. I needed a place where I can get messy and be free to work the way that I wanted to work. My goal wasn't to create a fancy space, it was to create a functional space. But before I show you around, I have a question for you. Is there any part of your creative work that could benefit from having a dedicated space? What about a dedicated corner or a small table? Share with us down in the comments, and maybe we can all brainstorm some ideas together. And this workbench is the heart of my dye studio. It's a large work surface, plenty of storage, so everything that I need is easy to reach, and there's nice storage underneath for big, bulky items. One of my favorite things in the studio is this bucket ladder that my husband built for me, and I use this to store all of my rusty metal. For general storage, I chose inexpensive shelving, crates, and some simple organizers that I don't mind if they get dirty. I really wanted this room to work for me and not the other way around. I kept coming back to one idea, and that was function over fancy. But like every other studio, this one will continue to change. I would like to do something with the outside. Right now, it looks like I plopped a giant tin can in my side yard, which is exactly what I did, but I want to find some way to integrate it more with the yard. That's something I'll have to work on in the future. So my question to you is, have you ever done anything unconventional when it comes to setting up a studio space? If so, leave a comment and share it with us. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.